This is the Cannon Chatter post-match podcast with the Southern Gooner.
All right, it's that time. It's preseason at Arsenal Football Club. Last night, Arsenal took on Bournemouth out in Los Angeles, California, on the West Coast. So I had to stay up late last night and watched Arsenal kick off the preseason tour here in the States against old Bournemouth. And there were a few takeaways from last night's game. And I guess I'll start with the rough part first, is that I don't know if it was me, but it looks like to me our players looked like they were out of gas. I didn't see, last season, I think if people want a good example, go back to last preseason and the preseason before last, at how fresh we looked going into preseason and going into the season that year as well. It looks, I'm not sure if it's a case of they've been overtraining or training a lot. And I know it's hot here in the States because Monday was the hottest it's ever been in the United States. So I know it's probably hot. So, it may just very well be that. But it looked like the guys were a little leggy last night. So I'm not sure if they had a practice session right before they kicked off. And I know they had a behind closed door friendly with Leyton Orient early this week. So that may have played a part. But the boys looked leggy last night. And then I think for me, my main takeaway last night watching the play, because I watched it a little bit, and it seems as if we're the same philosophy. The same philosophy is back at play. Sideways, backwards, sideways, 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 backwards, sideways, sideways, backwards, sideways, forward, backwards, sideways, sideways, backwards, sideways, forward, backwards, sideways. And I'm going to tell you the one moment that stood out for me in all of that. The young blood, Ethan Winery, picks up the ball and says, "To hell with it. I'll just dribble everybody, and I'm going down there, and I'm going to try to make something happen." He did that on several different occasions last night. The other young fella, let me get his name here. I think his name, I just want to make sure I pronounce it right. Give me just a second here. I'm looking at my notes. Skelly. Skelly was another one who did well last night on the left-hand side. I think those two were my two standouts from last night. It was good to see Timber, but I have to remind everybody, this is like our maybe third time seeing Timber. So he still has to get reacclimated and get back into form. So I'm not really expecting a whole lot out of him. I hope he does well this season, and I hope that he can get back up to where he was right before he got hurt last season, because he was looking good, but it's a case of he's got to play himself back into form. Hine, he did fairly well in goal last night, because Bournemouth, man, I'm telling y'all, Bournemouth, I watched that game last night, and Bournemouth, let's just be straight up honest and up front. Bournemouth probably should have beat us last night. They probably should have beat us 3-1. And the reason why I want to address this, and I know people are going to say, "Well, Matt, it's just preseason. What are you upset about?" It's just that I'm seeing the same thing that I saw last season. And I want to put this into perspective for everyone. We can't have those type performances, because in the season, when the season comes in about a month, there's going to be no penalty kicks for us to bail ourselves out to win a game. At least in the league. It's just not going to happen. So we've got to win games. For the most part, most of the senior players, the guys that have played together, they were there. I know Gabby was missing, and I'm going to address that as well. Gabby and Saliba, and they were missing, but for the most part, the skeleton was there. Kivior, Chinko, White, Timber can play center back. We saw that last night, at least in the second half. We saw, well, for the majority of the game, rather, you saw that. So, and let's just go ahead and let's tackle that right now. I want people to understand how important right now it is that Saliba and Gabriel stay healthy. Because if we lose either one of them, or for God's sake, if we lose both of them this season, we're in major trouble. Reckitt, he was all over the place that second half. All over the place. Sliding, slipping, getting spun. And what you saw in the second half of the preseason game last night, and this is funny because I was talking to Lee last night. We actually watched it together, watched the second half together last night. He called and we was watching it. And it looked like what we saw throughout the season when things just went sideways. And it was just everything it just got chaotic. It was just total chaotic football. And then once again, we see twice last night, Eddie Nketiah in goal scoring position, and what does he do? I mean, if the brother from Bournemouth could finish his food, they would have won the game. But he couldn't finish his food. So you look at Eddie Nketiah last night, and you see it's the same old trope. Same old trope. It's the same old thing. We see it over and over and over. And so, what are you saying, man? I'm saying we've got to go get a striker. We've got to go get a striker. I know someone's going to come in. Someone's going to come out. But we got Havertz. Havertz is not going to get it done the entire season. He may get it done a few games, but I can guarantee you this team is not equipped right now to have him lead the line for the entire season. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We were very, very, very close last night to being embarrassed. Arteta is still playing the same U-shaped football, and it's quite evident. And we're going to have to address these issues. Now, we've got a major game against Manchester United, so I'm going to be looking at that this weekend. I know it's preseason, but I want to see in the next preseason game, does the philosophy change? Does he try anything new? Does who starts? Do we have a little bit more of the first team in that game? Or are we starting out the way we started against Bournemouth? Is the tempo going to be picked up faster? Are the passes going to be much tighter? Because if you noticed last night, the passes were just kind of all over the place. We're passing from coast to coast. Meanwhile, in the second half there, if you go back to the second half, did you see how Bournemouth just went right through that midfield? 2 balls over and we're in trouble. 3 balls over, we're in trouble. 1 ball over, we're in trouble. These are all issues, y'all, that we saw last season and the season before that. These are the same issues, you all. And like I said, I know it's preseason, and I give you a little leeway on that. But if we see this again for the next 2 or 3 weeks while we're in the preseason, that just lets you know what's going to be coming out this season. And I know people are going to come in and say, well, you're moaning, it's preseason. They're just up to snuff. They're just getting everything ready, good to go. That's Bournemouth we played last night, y'all. That was Bournemouth, pretty much their first team last night. And I'm sure if we probably had the entire first team, it may be a little bit different. But you see the style of play. This is what I want to hammer home. I'm going to keep hammering on the style of play. Sideways, backwards, sideways, front, back, sideways, sideways, backwards, sideways, backwards, backwards, sideways, sideways, backwards, sideways, backwards, backwards, sideways. That's what we saw last night. And so that has to be worked out. We've got to work that out of our game. We've got to start playing more dynamic, up-tempo, quick, fast-paced, and play to our players' strengths. Play to the strengths of the players. It was so refreshing to watch Waneri take on 2 or 3 players last night. 2 or 3 players. He took them on with confidence. Now, I'm not one that's saying he should be starting next year, but he definitely needs to either be traveling with the first team or he needs a nice loan. A loan to a team that's going to play him and give him quality time so that he can develop, because there's a player there. The eye test, I can look right at him and go, yep, there's a player there. But we have to make sure we cultivate this young man and get him to a higher plane. So if you look at him, you look at Skelly, you look at these guys. Okay, last season some of these guys played and we heard nothing from them. This is why I'm a big advocate of players going out on loan to quality teams. Your Rangers, your Celtics, your league championship, and then your League One. You move them around to some team, Wrexham, get them to some of these teams to where they can get some quality time, quality minutes, so they can develop, so they can be in the first team. 17, 18, and 19 are the most critical years for this young man. They're absolutely critical for his development. Critical. So we don't have time for Arteta to be screwing him up. So he needs to be developed. Right now he needs to be developing. And within a year or two, he needs to be knocking on the door of Odegaard's position. Needs to be, I'm taking it. Soccer, you might be in trouble too, depending on where they want to run him, where they want to play him at. But for me last night, like I said, it's a preseason game. You can't put a whole lot of stock into that stuff, but I can tell you this, though. I will tell you, the style of play is still there. Those same problems that we saw last season are still there. See, that's something that has to be rooted out. It has to be rooted out. So this upcoming season, if we don't change that style of play, y'all, I think that's going to be our undoing this season. I think that's going to be the undoing, because Bournemouth just made it way too easy last night. 1, 2, 3 pass, they in. 1, 2, 3 pass, we're in. 1, 2, 3 pass, we're in. 1, 2, 3 pass. And it's the same thing. Same thing. Like I said, I know I'm going back talking in circles, but it's the same old thing. Same old thing. All right. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about this as well. I want to talk about a couple of things here. Emma Smith Rowe is supposedly on the move. Good piece of business if what we're hearing is true. I think it's $35 million, probably around 27, 26 if you look at the actual text, because the text says it's the rumor is that it's up to 32, 35, whatever it is, up to, meaning that it's probably not the base price. But nonetheless, it's money in the coffers. Now, why is that important? Because Ivan Toney, I've told y'all, I'm not changing my stance on who my striker should be. Ivan Toney is sitting out there. And if you got if you can slash the price by half just by a player sale, then we need to be on that. Because this team is going to need a striker this season. We're going to need we're going to need a killer, as Ian Wright said, a sniper. Somebody that can get the job done. Get the job done. Gyökeres, people are saying, well, what about Gyökeres? Hey, man, I think they want $100 million for him. So he's 9 times out of 10, he's probably not moving. So you got to go with the best option. For me, the best option is Ivan Toney anyway. You get you about 3-4 years out of him. Get what you can get out of him. You move off of him, and bang, you bring in your new up and coming. But for me right now, that's what we need, especially in the window that we're in, because we're in a small window of competing here, and I think we're coming near the end before we need to do another rebuild, quality rebuild. Anyway, we're going to need to make these adjustments quickly. Emma Smith Rowe was a player. It kind of goes back to when I was talking about Nwaneri. Is a player that the most crucial years of his development were wasted. Some of it was his own doing by injury, and some of it was by this manager. I wish him the very best at Fulham. It'll give me a reason to watch a few Fulham games. I'll be pulling for him, watching him play. And I wish him the very best. it was very unfortunate because he definitely showed glimpses of a player that was getting ready to go to the next level. And just, those injuries, man, and then the manager just basically not developing him and getting him to where he needs to be. Kind of doomed him. So, Calafiore looks like, and I like, I'm a Virgo, so I like to look at things finite. It looks like it's a done deal, but I keep telling people Basel wants their money so that they can pay Roma. So until that gets worked out, it's 80%, 75% done. Until we see him holding up that kit, and this is the way I want people to start looking at our Arsenal transfers this year. Until the player is on the homepage holding up the kit, he is not signed for Arsenal. Until you see the Arsenal's Twitter with him in the weight room, shaking hands, agreeing, going through the physical, he's not an Arsenal player. He's not an Arsenal player until you see all of that. That's the way we operate over here. Now, maybe at United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, if they hear the word, it's probably done. They don't goof off like that. But with us, until we actually see the person holding the kit on the Arsenal homepage, they're not an Arsenal player. But I will treat this topic as such. If he's coming in, then okay, cool. Let's see what he can do. Because at this stage, if he's better than what we have, I'm all for it. Like I said, I watch Serie A, but I don't watch Bologna. Let's put it like that. So I couldn't tell you a whole lot about it. And I didn't watch too much of the early parts of the Euros because I was working, the early parts of it. So I really wasn't paying too much attention to him. So I only saw him, I think, in the later stages. So it is what it is. We'll see what he can do. Hopefully he comes in and he can do a job. So that's that. And then the last thing I want to tackle before we roll out is Edu and Arteta. Well, it's mainly Edu. Because Arteta's not going anywhere. I've resigned myself to that. But I will say this. Edu is absolutely pathetic when it comes to our transfers. Everything that you've seen this past week, Emma Smith-Rowe, Calafiore, these are deals that probably could have got done 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. We all knew that Fulham, this is not the first time that we've heard about Fulham sniffing around for Emma Smith-Rowe. This is not the first time, so that we know that this was already going on. And what should have already happened is that deal should have been done, dusted, and we should have already moved in. This is my concern when it comes to our transfers. Is that we're going to do it this way. We're going to end up trying to get all our transfers in by the Emirates Cup. If all of our transfers are not in by the Emirates Cup, it's going to be a mad scramble at the end of the window. And that's called, I always say that's playing with fire. That is playing with fire. So, in that sense, he's wasted pretty much the majority of another transfer window. Now, what I would like to see is that a striker comes in, some of the other positions are filled, some of these players are sold, like Nketiah. They're moved on, which rumored he's going to Marseille, but that's probably going to be a loan. We need to be cashing in on players. We need to stop loaning players, and then when they don't work out, we're stuck with them. That's what's really getting us, is that we loan out players that need to be sold, and when those players don't play up to the level of where they are, we get them back, return to sender, and we can't get rid of them. And they're stuck on absorbent wages. That's an Edu problem. That's not an Arteta problem. That's an Edu problem. Because Edu is the one who is signing these deals and signing these players. Arteta may suggest he wants the player to stay, but I can guarantee you Edu's the one that's throwing the money down on the table to try to entice these young men. So we need people to be moved out of here, and we need whoever's going to be our team this year needs to be in by Leverkusen. If we do not have the full capacity, the full team here, everybody that's to be signed, our striker, first team players back and everything by that time, woe be unto us when the season starts. Because when we start the season, if we're just not getting everybody together, that means it's going to take 2 or 3 games just for players to get sorted out. And we don't have that kind of time this year, y'all. That schedule dictates right out of the gate, we don't have the kind of time to be lollygagging, goofing off, and wagging the dog. We don't have it. So we've got to be ready to go, ready to roll, because we already know 9 points lost, you're not winning the title. You're not winning the title. I expect this season to be extremely competitive with all 6 to 8 teams in the top half of the table. I expect this season to be very competitive. Very, very competitive. Aston Villa will be very, very competitive this year. Newcastle, they're going to be healthy this year. Chelsea, they'll be moving a lot better this year with a new manager. They'll have a more potent style of play. Manchester United, they're looking good already in preseason. They're making moves. So this season is going to be very competitive, and if we are just trying to get sorted out by the end of August, we're talking about bringing in players, and then it's going to take the bid in. We don't have time to waste this season, y'all. This is year 5. This is year 5. We're halfway through a decade with this team, and most of these players are getting up there, and they're going to be ready to roll out if we're not winning anything. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. But overall, last night's game, it was a preseason game. It definitely had the feel of a preseason game. Like I said, the style of play still is my biggest issue with this team based off of what I saw last night. Winery really raised my eyebrows there. Looked really good. The young man he definitely looked good. He looks the part, I tell you that. Definitely looks the part. I was very impressed with him. One other thing I could say is, Jesus again, man, you saw it. He's falling down. We're in a preseason game. He's falling over on the ground looking for calls. These are all things that, we're going into a critical part of the season this year. And we Arsenal fans, we just don't have the time. We just don't have the time for players to come out here goofing off. And we just don't have it, man. We just don't have that time to be goofing off. And it's time for some of these players to either get with it or get out after this season. And this is why I've dubbed this season as the year of the reckoning. It's because some players are going to leave, and it's going to be some lot of stuff that's going to be exposed this season. So, all right, so we're going to move on here. We're going to get ready for Manchester United on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Western Time. And if you're across the pond, I think that is 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 in the morning. Woo! So at least it's on a Saturday night, so you'll be able to stay up after you come home from the club. I am Matt, the Southern Gooner. Hope that you enjoyed this early podcast as we start to get ready. I'm going to try to do one again on Sunday for the United game if I have time. And we'll be starting to stream. I'll be back streaming full time right around the Emirates Cup. So we'll be back on it soon. But other than that, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you check out the series that I'm doing with Brother Lion Tex. We're doing The Streets Won't Forget. And we've done Jimmy Floyd Hasselblank. We've done Rakoba, Valderrama. We had Toady up there, but UEFA decided that they wanted to be assholes. So we had to pull that one down. But we've got some fresh stuff coming up, man. And we'll be working out cutting some new ones starting next week. So we'll get those out, and you'll see those as well coming up soon. But yeah, make sure you check those out. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to me, the Southern Gooner, here on YouTube. Hope that everyone has a wonderful weekend. Be safe, be blessed, and up the R's. Cheers. Peace.
Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Southern Gooner here on YouTube